Welcome to Sterling High School. We're in the TV studio. This is January 20th, Thursday, 2022. I'm Jared Claybourn, your principal. I have a couple updates for you as we prepare for next week. So next week's schedule, we're going to talk about some quarantine updates, attendance policy, and the end of semester one is coming. So with that, a couple things. What we need you to know is this week we've been on a special in-person half-day student schedule. We did that last 2 weeks. A lot of that decision comes from our ability to staff the building, case rates, and our ability to follow the NJDOH quarantine recommendations. And an important note is that all recommendations, whether they're from the CDC or the New Jersey Department of Health and a county Office of Education, are all recommendations for us, and then Sterling High School through Mr. Sheehan and our pandemic response team determine the best scenario for Sterling High School. So right now, as of Thursday the 20th, I'm telling you, you need to be prepared next week to be back to full in-person regular days. And then, of course, as we have been throughout this pandemic, we are all ready and able to pivot at any point into any type of schedule. But you need to be prepared for a regular in-person, full regular day beginning next week, which is Monday, January 24th. Be prepared. We will make that announcement later this week. Okay? As far as the pandemic and updates as far as quarantine, you've seen the recommendations from the CDC. The New Jersey Department of Health has now updated their guidance and recommendations. And so people are quick to divert to the 5-day quarantine. I want to direct your attention to Mr. Sheehan's letter where he talks about the impact of that on Sterling High School. So first of all, you're not just out of the woods by saying, okay, I'm quarantined 5 days and then I'm back. But there's also a very strict and important mask mandate that has to happen on days 6 through 10. Now, really, nothing should have changed. Everybody in the building should be wearing their mask, but where it does have an impact is in athletics and other activities, select activities where masks might be required to be removed, and also lunches. It's a big deal. So the question is, how do we maintain a standard of care in those days of 6 through 10 when you're supposed to wear your mask, but then we have to provide lunch? And really, at the end of the day, the standard of care is going to be a joint responsibility by every individual within this building. It is important that you wear your mask consistently and correctly. And then when a situation occurs that we have to figure out close contact scenarios, then you're going to have to say with clarity and with confidence that you wore your mask appropriately for the protection of not only yourself, but the people around you. And so as far as lunch, what we're asking you to do is that you eat your lunch. It should be within 15 minutes. We have a 40-minute lunch period, but you're not eating that entire time. Eat your lunch, get your mask back on. Our staff will remind you, but again, it's going to be individual responsibility to uphold the standard of care that is necessary to bring people back to full day in person at the school. All right, so very important that make sure that every individual is responsible for that. It is not the school's sole responsibility to ensure that that is occurring. Okay, other NJDOH update regarding quarantine and specifically the booster is that they are now recommending that booster shots are given to all students ages 12 and up. So we are given a little grace in their period. Amount of time. So if you, from 5 months after your series of shots for Moderna and Pfizer, I think it might be a little bit sooner for the Johnson & Johnson, but as soon as you're eligible, you want to consider having a conversation as a family on whether or not you get the booster. And the impact simply is this: it's not a requirement. We're not telling you have to get that done, but without the booster, you're not considered fully vaccinated, and therefore you would be subject to quarantine in a close contact scenario. So just make that note to yourself personally, that once that is finally rolled out, which they're talking about February 1st, for all persons 12 and older to have a booster, that it's not required. It's not like when the governor came in and said all educational staff have to have the thing or subject to testing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the recommendation that they have boosters, and if they don't, then you have to go on quarantine in a close contact scenario. All that information can be seen online at either the New Jersey Department of Health, or we have it connected to our website, right under the Safe Return Plan. Click on that and you'll find the different Department of Health guideline updates right there. Okay, the end of semester 1 is next week. The final day is Thursday, the 27th. We are really excited about finishing up and wrapping up. And on the 28th, we have a staff PD day. It's very important that the staff have a day to transition from semester 1 to semester 2. We also have some great wellness activities that are part of the requirements in meeting the COVID grant money, is to provide some things for our staff to make sure they're healthy and well and able to serve your students. So we'll be doing some of those activities on that Friday the 28th as well. But the semester is ending quickly. So a big thing is attendance. All right, attendance challenges. First of all, your first contact when having to deal with attendance issues is to contact your student's guidance counselor. The student's guidance counselor will have to collaborate with our attendance officer, Mr. Carter, to make sure that the appropriate notes were in place and that the excuses, when necessary or if applicable, are applied to your student. Please note, according to our policy, you can't just give us a note that you went to the doctor 3 months ago. That doesn't apply. They have to be provided to the school within 3 days of the visit, or the school does not have to apply those doctor's notes. The other big question is, for every student, if you were granted synchronous remote instruction due to COVID, and remember, you can only be granted for COVID reasons, then you had to be present online in order to receive credit and attendance for that day. And here's the question that we're finding with a bunch of parents. The student may have been marked present on a certain day, but in one class, whatever class that is, say second block biology, they decided not to go. They didn't go to that class. And you as a parent, you had no idea. You're not home, you're out at work, and your student's at home. But that impacts that student's class. So when you're seeing if your student's being invited to credit completion or they've received a no grade, it's not just the daily attendance that matters, it's every individual class. And specifically students that were granted permission to work at home, if they chose to attend 3 out of 4 classes, that other class is not going to be counted as attending. Okay, so when you have questions with that, you have to reach out to your guidance counselor. The last little piece of information, which we clearly communicated, is when you are operating in remote synchronous instruction, you only got attendance credit if you were online, on time, with your camera on. Okay, the teachers were given full authority to mark your student absent if they did not have the camera on. So you must take that into consideration as well. The camera is essential for the wellness of your student to make sure that they are connecting appropriately, they are safe and healthy in their remote instruction, wherever that space was. So those are the big announcements, lots of important information. Again, be prepared. We're not making that final announcement yet because we're waiting for the county update this week, but be prepared to return to normal school next week. Be prepared for the end of the semester. Make sure you're reaching out to your guidance counselor regarding attendance, and then it is all of our personal responsibility equally within this building to make sure the standard of care for our safety is kept at the highest level. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out, whether it's about attendance, pandemic, anything. We're happy to help serve you. We wish you a great end of your week, and as always, go Knights.